In the 1999 novel Star Wars: The New Jedi Order Vector Prime, Chewbacca nobly sacrifices himself to save the crew of the Millennium Falcon. He dies from, of all things, having a moon fall on top of him. It's tragic, I know. But this is a thing that happened in the universe of Star Wars. It's in the book, so it must be true, right? Well, not exactly. You see, in October of 2012, Disney purchased Star Wars from Lucas, and they didn't like the direction the story was going. They had a different vision. The events in the old novels, comic books, video games, and role-playing games, they erased all of that. Disney simply released an official statement saying that none of those events ever actually happened, and that they shouldn't be considered canon anymore. And that's really too bad, because there was a Jedi Ewok in one of those books, and I so badly want that to be part of the lore. But Disney isn't alone here. Sometimes, stories, they spin out of control. Writers write themselves into a corner, or a new creative vision takes over. We've all seen this happen more than a few times. So you're probably asking yourself right now, what does any of this have to do with Monster Hunter? In my lore video series so far, I focused mainly on the ecology of the monsters, but I have touched briefly on some of the history of the world, and I'd like to explore that history in more detail as the series progresses. In a previous video, I talked about the equal dragon weapon, and about some of the monsters from less popular games, like Monster Hunter Frontier, and I got a lot of interesting comments on those videos. There were more than a few of you who felt very strongly that events from certain games or books shouldn't be considered canon, and while I respect your opinion, I have to disagree here. I don't understand these comments, and here's why. As far as I know, Capcom, unlike Lucasfilm, has never released a statement regarding what is and isn't canon in the world of Monster Hunter, and I don't think this is an accident. When we play Monster Hunter, the goal of the developers is to transport us into that world, a world ruled by monsters and populated by primitive hunters who don't really understand their own history all that well. I really feel that Capcom hasn't released a statement regarding canon because explaining these things to us would have taken some of the mystery out of the world, and I don't think that's what Capcom wants, and I know it's not what I want. So did the equal dragon weapon exist? What about spin-off games like Monster Hunter Stories, where cute anime characters ride around on monsters and battle Pokemon style? Did that happen? What about Monster Hunter Frontier? What about Monster Hunter Online? There's a giant beaver monster in that game. I know, I played it. I had to make a fake Chinese account just so I could get onto their servers. And I don't read Chinese either, so that was a feat in itself. I don't know if these things are canon, but here's the thing, before you start flaming me in the comments, neither do you. Because, like I said, Capcom, they haven't answered this question. And until they do, if the title of the game is Monster Hunter, and it's licensed by Capcom, that's enough for me. And trust me, I get it. People like to argue about the things that they're passionate about. So let's discuss these things. Don't stop leaving me comments. Don't stop telling me what's canon and what's not, at least in your opinion. But let's also not count each other out because we disagree. Here's another interesting comment I've been getting, and I promise this relates. Just, again, bear with me. In my Diablos video, I mentioned that Diablos, he eats cactuses. Not cacti, I said cactuses. And I've received at least a minimum of 100 comments. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but there were a lot of them. And these comments were all nearly identical, and they all said something to the effect of, "Hey dum-dum, it's cacti, not cactuses." But here's the thing. I have sitting next to me right now a Merriam-Webster's dictionary. And the funny thing is that if you take the time to look in the dictionary, you can clearly see that there are two correct pronunciations. there are two correct ways to say cactuses. Cacti, cactuses. Either one, they're both correct. So, the reason I'm bringing this up is, you see, there can be more than one correct answer to a question. There can be more than one correct way to look at something, more than one correct way to say something. Now, I'm not about to say that anything goes here. I'm not okay with people just making stuff up out of the blue and calling it fact. That doesn't work. That's not cool. I'm not going to do that. If I say something in one of my videos, you can rest assured that I believe it's true. And I believe it's true because I've read it in one of the books, I've seen it in one of the games, I've heard it in a developer interview. Does that mean I'm right? No, of course not. I'm human. I misunderstand things all the time. Honestly, I drive my wife a little bit crazy sometimes because she tells me to do something for her and I screw it up because I misunderstand her. It's not because I want to make her unhappy. It's because, again, I'm human. And I thought I heard one thing, but apparently she said another. I guess the point that I really want to make here is, I'd like to get into the story of Monster Hunter. I'd like to explore this world more with you. I hope we can dive into this together. I hope we can learn about the places and the history and the people that make this world come to life. And I want you to know that I'm going to do everything I can to make sure the information I present is accurate. But I'll probably get some things wrong, and you'll probably misunderstand some of the things I say and form your own wrong conclusions. And Capcom, they probably won't ever say one way or another. I mean, maybe they will. That would be cool if they, went full Lucasfilm on us and made a detailed map of what's canon and what's not and told us that this, anime is no longer canon and that Monster Hunter Stories only exists in a parallel universe where bullfangos lay eggs, and that I could go on forever here. But the takeaway is, let's dive in together, let's discuss this, let's hash it out. And I'm looking forward to reading your comments and learning from all of you as we dive into this world head first together. The thing that I love so much about this game is that it's always been about hunters working together to overcome things that are greater than them, that are larger and more powerful and stronger. And I know that as a community, we can figure all this out. This may have been a series that became popular in Japan, and we may be a little bit behind the 8-ball. And that's okay, because we're all here together, and now this is our game, and we're gonna own it. And man, I'm gonna have so much fun, and I think you are too. As always, this has been Strawfoot, and thank you for sticking around through my rambling here. I didn't write a script for this episode. It was just something that I felt like it was the right thing to do. I felt like it was the right time to talk about it before we dive into all this complicated history and things that I know people are going to get upset about. And rightfully so, because we're all passionate about this. So thanks for putting up with me, and thanks for all the great comments I know I'm going to get. I can't wait to learn what you think about all this. If you want to join the discussion, leave me a comment below. You can also follow me on Twitter, and hey, I even have a Patreon page now. So if you want to support the project, if you want to get more involved, there's going to be lots of great rewards and great ways for you to contribute. And of course, I know you guys always click all the buttons. I don't really need to say that, but I feel like it's kind of my catchphrase at this point. So go click all those things. All right, peace out.